Starting in 2021, the town of Carver is updating its 2010 Open Space and Recreation Plan, commonly called the OSRP, to create a 7-year vision and action plan to acquire, protect, and improve your conservation land, open spaces, and recreational activities in town. By updating its plan, Carver will be more prepared proactively to pursue the future of its open spaces and recreational activities. An OSRP and a process through which it is developed accomplishes four critical functions. First, the OSRP describes Carver's open space and recreation resources by translating data into a comprehensive picture of the town's natural resources. Second, it creates a forum for residents to share concerns about the current open space and recreation lands in Carver and their ideas to make these community resources better. The OSRP combines baseline data and input from the local community into a blueprint for taking actions that will protect and manage the community's resources and improve open space and recreation in town. Finally, having a completed OSRP makes communities eligible to apply for grants from the Division of Conservation Services. For example, grant money may be used to purchase land for open space and water resource protection. OSRP action items often relate to priorities for addressing natural resource conservation goals, new land protection for parkland or preservation purposes, improvements to existing recreation and open space facilities, strategies for addressing maintenance issues, priorities for historical and cultural preservation, and overcoming barriers to access for people with disabilities and improving the spread of information about these locations. Remember, all of these action items cost money, and having an up-to-date OSRP will make Carver eligible for state grant funding to implement these projects. The action items that come out of an OSRP are guided by a set of overarching goals. The goals of the 2010 plan were 1. To maintain the rural character and scenic atmosphere of Carver. 2. To preserve the quality of Carver's natural resources, including ground and surface water, wetlands, and wildlife habitats. 3. To improve access to and enhance recreational opportunities for all Carver residents. 4. To develop definitive strategies that will affect change in town policy regarding open space and recreation issues in Carver. In 2010, Carver had just over 2,960 acres of open space and recreation lands, the vast majority of which were permanently protected. A smaller portion of land had no guarantee of long-term protection, but was functionally dedicated to open space or recreational activities. The 2010 plan estimated that with a population of 11,000, Carver should have had between 70 and 115 acres of developed parkland equipped with playgrounds, playing fields, trails, beaches, and other similar amenities. At that time, the town had only 39 acres of such developed park and recreation land. Between 2010 and 2021, the town of Carver, nonprofits, and the state have accomplished much additional land preservation, including the transfer of custody from the Select Board to the Conservation Commission of Beaver Dam Brook Conservation Land, First Beach, Second Beach, and Third Beach on Vaughn's Pond, Bates Pond Beach, and Buckman Park Playground, both in the Bates Pond neighborhood, Wenham Shores Recreation Area and Picnic Isle in Wenham Pond, and Buzzards Bay Coalition land. Expanded land around the Atwood Reservoir Wildlife Management Area, owned by the Department of Fish and Game, accounts for most of the increase in acreage. Today, there are more than 3,500 acres of open space within Carver. 53% of this open space is used for conservation and recreation activities, while 25% is used solely for conservation. The majority of open space parcels in Carver are owned by the town and have been acquired through the use of state self-help and water supply pre-Community Preservation Act funds, private donations, and conservation restrictions on key parcels. Other significant accomplishments since the last plan include the enforcement of regulations protecting open space, the environment, and the scenic character of town, the reevaluation of the town's transfer of development rights bylaw, the protection of the Plymouth Carver aquifer from overdevelopment, planning for bike routes in town, the establishment of the Carver Trail and Conservation Stewardship Committee, and use of CPA funding for improvements at town fields. An OSRP not only surveys how residents are currently interacting with their open spaces, but also takes a forward-facing approach to seeing how Carver's population will interact with its various open spaces in the future. As such, it takes into account important demographic variables such as the age of residents, so that we ensure we're planning for everyone in the town. As of the 2020 census, nearly 20% of Carver's residents are ages 65 and up, while the age group under 18 years old makes up an additional 20% of the population. Since the distribution of ages in the town is generally skewed more towards the 65 plus age group, this group will likely see the most growth going into the future. Senior populations require different amenities than younger populations, such as walking trails, bike paths, and passive recreation areas such as parks and picnicking grounds. Similarly, younger populations may require different amenities such as swimming, skate parks, and off-road biking trails. As the senior population in Carver will likely increase in the coming years, planning in advance for this shift will help prepare the town to respond to their needs. Just as the town must be prepared for demographic changes in coming years, so too must it be ready for changes in the physical environment that will be caused by climate change. There are two major climate impacts that the town can expect to see: precipitation and temperature changes. We can project how climate change will impact the Buzzards Bay and Taunton River watersheds, where Carver is located, by using various measures of carbon emissions. Based on a high carbon emission scenario, which is where we are at now, by 2050, Carver can expect to see an additional 14 to 42 days above 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 2.16 additional inches of rain annually, nearly 2 additional days of extreme rainfall events per year, and an average of 2 additional consecutive dry days in the summer and fall. Open space planning can be a critical tool in climate change adaptation and mitigation. Different types of open space and recreational lands present their own unique benefits and challenges when it comes to addressing climate change. Open spaces along rivers and ponds will have to contend with more flooding and erosion. Recreational activities in the summertime will have to deal with more extreme heat and precipitation, which can have a particular impact on seniors and young children. However, open spaces can also help us address the impacts of climate change. Open spaces that are designed to flood and store rainwater, such as rain gardens and natural floodplains, can help protect our communities from street-level flooding. Forests also provide a cooling effect. Healthy forests and wetlands also perform the critical function of pulling carbon from the atmosphere, also known as carbon sequestration. This slows the rate of climate warming, representing Carver's contribution to the global goal of keeping warming under 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit. At the end of this process, Carver residents will ideally be able to use the OSRP to make good decisions about the future of open space preservation and recreational activities in the town. The Open Space Plan has 10 sections. 1. Plan Summary. 2. Introduction. 3. Community Setting. 4. Environmental Inventory and Analysis. 5. Inventory of lands of conservation and recreation interests. 6. Community Vision. 7. Analysis of Needs. 8. Goals and Objectives. 9. 7-Year Action Plan. 10. Public Comments. Open space plans allow communities to decide what kind of town character, resources, and recreational facilities they would or would not like to see in their community. If you want more bike paths, playing fields, hiking trails, or boating areas, or to ensure that land is set aside to protect drinking water aquifers, forests, habitat, and essential protective areas like wetlands, the Open Space Plan is your opportunity to share your voice and lay the groundwork to make this happen. If you would like to get involved with the open space planning process, make sure to visit the project webpage at bit.ly/OSRP-Carver.